Welcome to Women in Conservation Wednesdays. Today we're here with Abby and Meredith from Project Coral at the University of Exeter. Could you both tell us what you're currently doing?
Hi, I'm Abby Ray. I'm currently working at the RSPB as their Youth Supporter Publications Manager. So I make the magazines for all the young people involved with the RSPB. And I was doing marine biology undergraduate degree at the University of Exeter through the duration of the COVID pandemic.
I'm Meredith Diamond and I'm in my last year of my master's in marine biology. I'm currently researching horizontal gene transfer in bacteria, and I'm also trying to run the Coral project.
So when you first started the project, what were the aims of the project?
So this is Abby. I was volunteering in Bermuda before I started my undergraduate degree, and when I was working out there as a journalist for a couple of years, and that was my career before I retrained. And during my free time, I spend a lot of time out there in coral reef conservation. So when I came back to the UK and started at Exeter, I was really keen to involve corals in my degree, and there wasn't a huge amount of tropical marine biology available in the Exeter programme. So the idea was to incorporate something that I was passionate about as part of my degree experience, which was really encouraged by the university. And when I spoke to more students, it seemed there was a real passion for that, and so we decided to set up Project Coral to try and make that happen.
Yeah, and there's a lot of research that's needed into corals at the moment because they're so endangered with climate change, and they're such a sensitive ecosystem that's so vital to the ocean. The more research that you can do on corals, the better.
Yeah, definitely. So Abby, you mentioned that you're now at the RSPB, and you said that you're in Bermuda. How did you end up getting into conservation? Was it just Bermuda, or did you go into that before?
No, yeah, my previous career was I was working as a journalist for about 20 years, and I got a job on the national paper out in Bermuda, and my shifts didn't start till about 4 o'clock every day, so I had all this free time. And just out of a conversation, somebody I knew on the island said the aquarium was looking for strong swimmers, and I was a really keen open water swimmer before that, so I started volunteering there with their Kids on the Reef program, which was an educational program to get young kids in Bermuda to fall in love with the ocean and protecting it through immersive experiences. So we taught them how to free dive, and we taught them about kind of coral reef ecology and the ocean as a whole, and I just adored doing that for 2 years. And so when I came back, I kind of thought I could either spend the rest of my life commuting into an office in London, or I can go out and follow the dream and become the next female Jacques Cousteau. And so that's what I did. I decided to go back to uni and learn to do that all over again. So my passion came from free diving and the corals, and that's something very, very deep in my heart. And I went on after my undergraduate, I transferred in my final year because of the pandemic and the complications that involved with finances and where to be. I was actually offered the chance to transfer to doing a master's in tropical marine biology at Essex University. So I just finished that, and I just happened to be offered a job at the RSPB. It's pretty much everything that's happened in my career has just been through chance conversations and people that I kind of know, and I can't stress the importance of networking and just having conversations and telling people what you're interested in, because I would say all of my lucky breaks have come through that, really. So because I had a skill that was complementary to conservation, being able to do journalism, and science communication is so important these days. It was just a really natural kind of segue to take on this position at the RSPB.
Amazing, that's so cool. And what about you, Meredith? How did you get into conservation?
I got into conservation. I've always been really passionate about the environment. I'm like a lifelong vegetarian, and I actually took quite a few years out after like a compulsory education. And I went traveling, I went around the world, and the more people I met that were also equally passionate about the environment inspired me to go and do something about it and get into conservation. It was also a huge level of frustration that I felt about the climate crisis and things that are going on that really need addressing and need people to be addressing them. So I went back to uni to train again, doing the marine biology. And yeah, it's been wonderful. I haven't looked back.
Yeah, just on like a really kind of selfish level, the ocean is my happy place. You know, I'm so lucky I've discovered something that really keeps me calm and mindful. And once I kind of found that like serenity that's underneath the water, I didn't really want to go back. So it's on a there's the saving the planet level, which is luckily very complementary to what makes me personally very happy as well.
So it both sounds like you've had like amazing experience in the conservation sector. Have you ever like had any experiences that you have felt like being a woman has impacted your experience in the conservation sector or your career or your work in any way, positive or negative?
I would say I haven't really found as a woman I've had difficult experiences. My bigger complication was so I'm 43 now, so I went back to uni at 40. Being a mature student, that was really tough. Especially having, you know, been in quite a successful career before that. So there were kind of things that it was really like back to basics with. So I was back living in student accommodation and not having an income anymore. And a lot of like the conservation projects as well, a lot of them are kind of run by people in their 18, 19, 20s, that kind of age. So I did the university turtle project in Cyprus, which was like an amazing experience. I learned so much, but you know, I was kind of like a 40-year-old surrounded by lots of very young people, and it does make you feel really old, you know. If you ever want to kind of have a 40s midlife crisis, I think it's go and hang around with loads of kind of bright, enthusiastic, beautiful kind of 18, 19, 20-year-olds, and then you're like, oh my goodness, I'm too old for this. But I was really lucky in the sense that I was right from the get-go, I was surrounded by some really amazing, inspirational women. So when I started volunteering in Bermuda, the chief marine biologist at the aquarium there was Dr. Alex Amet, and she was amazing and passionate about corals. And then there was Beth Neal, who was part of Aquasols, and she was teaching the free diving part of what we were teaching the kids. And then there was Jennifer Gray, who ran the Bermuda Turtle Project, and all these just right from the get-go. I don't know whether it's particularly water, you find women in particular, I think, are really drawn to the marine environment, but I never felt that me being female held me back. It felt like quite a deep spiritual connection with these kind of fellow mermaids around me. But I know that some people can find it challenging, and depending on what area of conservation they go into. But yeah, I was just incredibly lucky to have some amazing female mentors from the get-go.
I think you do a lot more of like the like practical in the field sort of work as well, don't you? Whereas a lot of my work's based in labs or doing research, and there's been definitely different sort of like reactions from that. Like I've been lucky enough that most of the work that I've done has been with Chris Lowe at the university, and he's always treated me equally and with a lot of respect. But there have been instances outside of that. Outside of the university completely, that I've not been allowed to do the same work. I've not been allowed to do the same shifts because they've been alone or at night, or they don't think I can do the labour, and whereas the men would just be fine. Yes.
Mary, I didn't know that. Has it been that overt? People have actually said to you, you can't do this because you're female, or have you just had that feeling on really?
No, yeah, because I was originally doing night shifts at a lab, doing like testing on growing certain activated sludges. And yeah, and then the next day they were like, oh, the girls shouldn't be alone doing the night shifts. I was like, what? Why? I'm just by myself in a lab. I love it. That's great. I want to be left alone.
Coral under the cover of darkness or something.
Exactly. So that was really frustrating. I did get quite angry about that. I think like one of my biggest grievances with is something that I hear a lot from males in conservation and biology, and I always hear them say, we need to get more women interested in science. It's like, women are interested in science, women are really interested in science, and like at undergraduate level it's disproportionately women in conservation and biology degrees. And it's not that women aren't interested in the science, it's just that the like archaic male dominated academic system isn't providing anything for women who potentially want to have children, or when you get to that sort of stage in your life where you may or may not want to have children, you often have to make a choice between continuing in academia or not. And yeah, there's very little support for people, and it's one of the things that like I've been having to consider in recent years. It's like, if I want to continue to do a PhD after this, I'm going to have to seriously think about if I do or don't want children at this time. So that's been like nitpicking through like legislations, like what's support's there. And I've talked to a few women, and a lot of them, one person very inspirational who's been done both of them, has been like, it's been absolutely difficult. There's just the men who run most of these sort of things just don't have any idea what sort of support or comfort or like help that you'll need in this sort of scenario. And I think that's really sad. I feel like that needs to be addressed, because it's the modern times now, and it shouldn't be that men are allowed to just continue because the primary caregiver is assumed to be the woman. But yeah, that's my biggest grievance. And people who say it, they're always, I think they're doing it as in they want to inspire women into science. They're not saying it in a negative way. They're very much like, oh yes, we need to get women more engaged. It's like, okay, well, you need to provide an environment where women are supported in that scenario. And I feel like that's a topic that isn't being addressed, and due to the fact that the academic structure has been around since it was mostly just men doing science and conservation work.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely 100% agree with you. And thank you so much for sharing your experiences. Really, really appreciate it. And I'm sure that listeners will definitely appreciate it as well. Probably a lot of people will probably feel similar to you. Off from that, something a little bit more positive. What's your favourite memory from working conservation?
Abby's definitely going to have more glamorous ones than me.
Well, yeah, I mean, like my whole experience in Bermuda was just, I mean, the magical thing about it was so unexpected. I just offered to help volunteer with some swimming, and I discovered this amazing underwater world, and because I was volunteering, I was taken out to have experience on the reefs and with lionfish and grouper and everything that I didn't even have to pay for. We went out on a boat every day, and I went free diving every day, and I didn't have to hire a boat or anything like that. And the joy I got from teaching, and we had, the aquarium was buying up this island in the middle of this big kind of lagoon, and we got to camp out on this island, and or just like really joyful, like seeing the world and nature through child's eyes again, was really special to me. And the coral reefs, were in a good situation out in Bermuda. They're not these horror stories that you hear about kind of on the barrier reef, or they certainly wasn't when I was there about 5 years ago. That it was just really magical and special, and every day of my life started pretty much out there for 2 years of me jumping on my scooter and running off into the ocean. And I spent time with helping with the turtle projects out there, but all just because I offered and I turned up and I spoke to people and I told people that was what I was passionate about. And that's I was just so very, very lucky. But I think if you just keep asking, keep knocking on those doors,
definitely keep pestering.
and definitely that. And that was how we got the project Corals set up, and that was how that's how I kind of got into university, was by kind of asking lots of people to write me nice recommendations from all my volunteering and all those kind of things, and seek out strong female mentors as well. Like that's my tutor was Dr. Ruth Thurston when I was at Exeter, and she had so much time and energy and advice and patience for me. To have somebody that you really feel has got your back is like really important when you kind of it makes you feel more than just like one of 1,000 million people trying to get into conservation. And but magical times in Bermuda. It's my spiritual home.
In contrast, I have nothing near as magical or beautiful as experience. Most of my work has involved wading through toxic blue-green algae and collecting sewage runoff. So a very stark contrast to swimming in beautiful azure waters.
But Mary, you find it sexy, don't you?
I don't know, I get a lot of pride out of it, especially when I've had recently had certain dangerous areas investigated due to me bringing it up on my own back. So like there's been a toxic, there's been a certain like lake that has a lot of toxic blue-green algae or cyanobacteria, and I'd noticed this well before anyone else had, and there were kids in it, there were dogs in it, and this could be really detrimental to health, and it's often due to like farm runoff, or in this case it was a golf course that was using large amounts of NMP fertilizer. And I was like, that's not okay, you're completely damaging the entire ecosystem here. And I brought it up to the local government and like kept pestering again. But yeah, it's all being addressed now, and I take a lot of pride and like satisfaction from doing that, even if I do have to get very slimy and gross a lot of the time.
Did you have a publication really recently, Mary? I think, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. That was cyanobacteria again. I've just got eyes for it now ever since working with it. Every time I see it anywhere, I go and report it, because yeah, it can be really dangerous, and often is because of human or anthropogenic influence due to fertilizers or irresponsible waste disposal. So it's often something that really needs to be looked at. But yeah, I've done some of my more fond memories have been doing outreach with children as well. I've done a lot of outreach, trying to get the public involved and excited about being into conservation. That's definitely one of the more rewarding bits. I get like big buckets of slime replica, like for the kids to get their hands in and be like, oh yeah, this is what's going on in the water, and it's all good fun. I really enjoy doing that.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing such great work, and even if you're just all about in slime, but that sounds great, and it obviously needs to be done, and it's so important for conservation and also awareness as well. Abby, you mentioned the importance of networking and stuff and for getting into conservation. Meredith, do you have any tips for people who want to get into conservation?
Oh yeah, just be determined and also speak up about things. I think if you have an idea, it's really good to just chase it. And again, networking is perfect for that. If you go and talk to people. One of the only reasons I've ever got any of the jobs I do is because I go and I pester people. I'm like, have you got any work for me? Have you got anything I can do? I really want to help out. And that's then escalated into all the other things I've done. So I think first year I kept pestering Chris, asking him to get me something to do. And then I helped on this anemone project, and it was wonderful. And then because of that, I got all the other sorts of work that I've gone into. So it's definitely worth raising your voice. And I think there's being timid isn't going to get you anywhere. Just keep pestering. I think a lot of people are really busy, and if you don't keep raising your voice to ask about things or like pester the local governments, they're just going to wash it under the table. So
there's loads of opportunities. So at Exeter, I know they have like an internship program where there's actually a big pot of money, and you can set up your own internship which you then get paid for. So I set my own one up, volunteering for the National Trust, and I just rewrote loads of copy on their website for the Loopool Forum, which is all about kind of pollution in the kind of water areas close to where the university was. And I got paid that's the same amount of money as I would have kind of for a part-time job that would have had to have. And Project Coral is looking for volunteers at the moment, so you can get in touch with Mary and get involved with this. And there's so many different areas like fundraising, communications, all that. It's not just being in the lab. All those skills are so valued by employers. I don't think you can really do conservation and science without knowing how to communicate it properly and how to get the public on side. There's no point us doing all the good work that we do without getting the public behind us. And also don't think of volunteering just as being these glamorous field trips. I know when I started at the RSPB, they say they find it's very hard to find people with the field experience, the kind of stuff they'll be doing day to day. And actually, I know our cohort, when we were at Exeter, there was a group that set up Kerno Conservation, and they just did that themselves, which is, and they found some land and they started protecting the local wildlife. There's a lot you can do right on your doorstep to give you kind of really good skills that don't necessarily have to cost a bomb.
Yeah, that's it. People in conservation are always looking for volunteers for things. You can't get enough. So yeah, looking at funding is an excellent one. Yeah, just I think if you have an idea, and especially with corals, there's been loads of amazing innovative sort of ideas coming out. People are 3D printing reefs and putting things like back into the ocean. And yeah, just I don't think don't doubt yourself, or if you have an idea, no matter how crazy or like out there, it's good to just ask and get it out. If people aren't going to go for it, they'll say no, but you might as well like ask. Like 1 in 3 things that you say might end up going forward.
Yeah, I think it took me about 5 months to find somebody that actually said yes to me doing Project Coral. Made it sound like it was really quick, but people kept saying, that's madness, that's madness. And I was like, I keep asking until I find somebody mad enough to say yes.
Obviously, Chris.
Yeah, thank you both so much for sharing your experiences and coming on the podcast today. I know that listeners have really enjoyed this, and I've really enjoyed listening to what you've had to say about your careers in conservation. So thank you very much.
Yeah,
you're so welcome, Millie. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It's been really lovely. Yeah, if anyone did want to join in on the Coral Project, we're getting to the point where we're about to launch it now. The tanks are being filled to cycle, and there's going to be a lot of interesting things that we're going to do, and it doesn't just need to be hands-on conservation. We've actually got these amazing reef tank lights that we can put program in, because we need to program a moonlight cycle for the corals. So even if you're into coding and you want to do something interesting in that way, we have a whole bunch of lights that need you can code for. Then we'll need help with the just general maintenance if anyone wants to get some hands-on experience. Contacting me on Twitter. I think Glass or Argonaut is my Twitter handle, which would be a good one. And hopefully we'll have a page up for Project Coral, but we haven't quite got there yet. So if I send Millie some links, that would be to put with it, that would be good. Yeah,
I'll definitely make sure to include all the necessary contact details and information under the podcast and on social media as well.
That's awesome. And if anybody wants to, we're really keen to cover young people in conservation, not just birds at the RSPB. So any sort of kind of wildlife conservation is really interesting to us. So you can always get in touch with me, and we'll try and share your story and put you in contact with other people that are interested in what you do.
Thank you both so much. I'll include all those details below.